Welcome to MojoPlays, and we love ourselves a spooky time, but some of these horror games coming in 2025 might just be too much for us. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Reanimal. After developer Tarsier Studios left the world of Little Nightmares behind, many wondered what their next project would be, and the studio isn't straying too far from their roots. Focusing on two children, a brother and sister, players must navigate a nightmarish island full of disturbing creatures and abominations, all while solving numerous puzzles to avoid being caught. Unlike their previous series, however, players will eventually be able to freely explore off the beaten path to uncover disturbing new secrets about the island. The game already somehow feels even more oppressive and menacing than anything in Little Nightmares, with some truly unsettling level design, lighting, and especially the creatures hunting their protagonists. Oddly enough, Tarsier's previous franchise will also be releasing its third entry, this time headed up by Until Dawn's Supermassive Games in 2025. Both games will feature cooperative play to survive their nightmarish worlds together. The Dark Pictures Anthology, Directive 8020.
The joy of it, the freedom of it, to just take your life in your hands and soar.
Speaking of supermassive games, their Dark Anthology Pictures series is continuing into the distant future with a new celebrity lead, this time the MCU's Lashana Lynch, with many others yet to be revealed. The fifth entry in their player choice-driven series, Dark Pictures continues their tradition of taking inspiration from classic horror, this time John Carpenter's 1982 masterpiece, The Thing. While little is known about the overarching narrative or how the player's choices will affect the outcome, given the inspirations as well as the description of The Thing in deep space, we can assume that much of the player's choices will be based around who in their group they can trust as an alien species slowly assimilates its way into the group. Supermassive's Dark Pictures series has had a rocky track record, but hopefully the futuristic setting and premise will offer something new for fans of the genre. Tormented Souls. Horror fans have a lot of nostalgia for the days of the original Resident Evil games, and while the series is constantly evolving with the times, some developers and fans have taken to recreating these classics of survival horror. Tormented Souls is getting a direct sequel in 2025, and will continue the lineage of its predecessor with fixed camera angles, tank controls, and a focus on solving ridiculously obtuse puzzles. Everything about the game pays homage to the RE series, right down to inventory management and even the sound effects as text is written out on the screen. Tormented Souls 2 does offer a few differences from its inspirations, such as a dodge mechanic, as well as a focus on improvised weapons rather than traditional firearms. With detailed environments, cheesy voice acting, and a claustrophobic atmosphere, those looking for a more nostalgic horror experience should keep Tormented Souls 2 on their wishlist. We Harvest Shadows.
How long has it been? 5 days? 6?
Leave it to video games to take something seemingly everyday and mundane and turn it into a nightmarish experience. Cozy sims are all the rage these days, but solo developer David Wheel is turning the traditional Stardew Valley experience into a psychological nightmare. Focusing on the day-to-day chores of farm life, night brings a whole new set of dangers, as something stalks the player from the shadows, and the deeper you go into your many acres of farmland, the more disturbing the events become. Designed as a slow burn horror story, keeping up with your crops and livestock as well as your farmhouse as the nightmare unfolds around you is reminiscent of some of the greatest horror films of the modern day. The game already has a demo on Steam for those interested in the nightmare of farm life.
Claire, I'm so sorry.
I see you.
The Midnight Walk.
If you're intending to walk the midnight walk, you better be sure to keep your spark safe and burning.
Although the Tim Burton-esque The Midnight Walk doesn't look like a traditional horror game, the deeper you look, the more disturbing it becomes. Animated entirely in stop-motion claymation, The Midnight Walk will see players guide a little lantern named Pop Boy through increasingly disturbing locations full of horrific creatures all looking to snuff out his flame. The handcrafted animation style adds not only more depth to the world and its monsters, but also adds to the overall unsettling atmosphere itself. Fully playable in VR for even more ambience, Pop Boy needs to actively avoid conflict if he hopes to survive the path of the Midnight Walk and see his journey to its end.
And so it was that the burnt one and a small flame took a wander down the Midnight Walk.
The Sinking City 2. Lovecraftian horror is fertile ground for the genre, and few have managed to capture the true spirit of H.P. Lovecraft like Frogwares' The Sinking City in 2019. In 2025, the developer is diving deep into the depths of this nightmare once again with another standalone visit to the flooded city of Arkham. Utilizing the developer's masterful tools of investigation, a new protagonist will interrogate numerous NPCs all affected by the Lovecraftian horrors of the flood slowly swallowing the city. As the floodwaters move throughout what remains of the city, new areas will open up and will either provide answers or even more questions about the mysterious events unfolding in Arkham. Full of nightmarish creatures and occultists worshipping an eldritch deity, The Sinking City 2 forces players to survive Lovecraft's 1920s horror and question their own sanity in the face of the unknown. Jurassic Park Survival.
This is Dr. Maya Joshi. I've been left behind on Isla Nublar.
Admit it. How many of you have either imagined or wondered how long you would survive on Isla Nublar after the dinosaurs escaped? For those of us who saw the original film in 1993, this was a daily discussion amongst our playground friends. Now, over 30 years later, God, we're old! Jurassic Park Survival will give players the chance to survive after being left on the island after all the remaining staff and survivors have been evacuated, leaving only you and some of the greatest predators in history alone on the island. Giving players the ability to search the island scavenging for resources, iconic locations such as the Visitor Center, the gates, and many other familiar locations, as well as brand new ones, will be fully explorable. Focusing on stealth and resource management, players will need to avoid encounters if they want to survive not only the mini dinosaurs, but the island itself. State of Decay 3. While not a horror title in the traditional sense, you don't know true terror until specific members of your community are killed during a scavenging mission, and suddenly your settlement is without clean water or a doctor. Focusing more on the long-term goal of surviving a zombie apocalypse rather than simply mowing down the undead with every weapon imaginable, State of Decay 3 tasks players with building a new home for those that remain, and keeping them happy and healthy as the world around them continues to crumble. State of Decay 2 introduced multiplayer, and the third entry expands on this with its persistent open-world design and ever-evolving threat of zombie hordes, this time with infected wildlife added to the mix. With the constant threat of permadeath for your survivors, although their sacrifice will never be forgotten, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
No one is forgotten. We live on.
Silent Hill F. Konami is finally resurrecting their long-dormant IPs, and Silent Hill is experiencing a very welcome resurgence. After the woefully misguided and disappointing Silent Hill short message, Bloober Team's remake of Silent Hill 2 proved to be a surprisingly faithful and updated experience that has us hopeful for the franchise's future. Silent Hill F is slated to be the next mainline installment in the series and is also set earliest in the timeline, taking place in the 1960s, leaving the titular town behind and instead being set in a Japanese village affected by the otherworld of Silent Hill proper. Silent Hill F features a very unique visual style for the series, full of flowers and overgrowth, while still maintaining its traditional fog-laden aesthetic. With much of the development team composed of industry veterans, we're cautiously optimistic about this new direction that looks to expand on the established lore of the beloved horror franchise. Will follow the light.
If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch.
Horror doesn't always have to come from something supernatural. Sometimes, the scariest things are simply the unknown and the fight for survival against overwhelming odds. Set against the backdrop of a Nordic winter, the isolation of exploring these areas creates a sense of dread as the elements battle against the player just as much as the personal demons of the protagonist's past. Focusing primarily on exploration and puzzle solving, the world actively works against you, with biting and harshly cold environments and an unpredictable ocean as you sail or traverse the uncharted and abandoned landscape by dog sled. The sense of loneliness is palpable, as each new location unravels more memories and the mystery of what led the main character to this place and their journey back home.
If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And which is more, you'll be a man.
Which horror experience are you most looking forward to? Share your pick in the comments. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips for MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.